Good morning, Ma'am Marjorie Alibo, and good morning to my co-masterants. Before anything else, let me introduce myself first. I am Louis Johnson Bastasa, and for this morning, I will be presenting to you a topic about personal values influence ethical choices. Before I will start, let me present to you first the objectives of today's discussion. First, explain the advantages of developing a strong sense of character. Second, understand how personal values are formed. Third, understand values conflicts and how to resolve them. Fourth, learn how to make the right ethical decisions based on their personal value systems. And fifth, understand the danger of corporate crime and the steps being taken to eliminate it. Now I'm also adding the 7 focused questions for the entire topic. We have number 1, how are core values formed? Second, differentiate between internal values conflicts and values conflicts with others. Third, explain the 5 dimensions of Kirschenbaum's valuing process. Fourth, explain the negative effects of the pursuit of immediate gratification. Fifth, how do top management values affect the purpose and direction of an organization? Sixth, what are the steps corporations are taking to eliminate crime in their organizations? And lastly, number 7, how might an ethics code help organization be more productive? Alright, let me start my discussion by presenting to you this picture. These are said to be the new generation of workers. It is said that the new generation of workers are occupationally and educationally ambitious. They are coming of age at a time when our culture is placing a great deal of emphasis on self-gratification, the crossing of many moral boundaries, and the breaking of many social taboos. Self-gratification as defined is the indulgence or satisfaction of one's own behaviors or one's own desires. Moral boundaries, on the other hand, is an expression of an individual's identity or belief system. Social taboos means a ban or an inhibition resulting in social custom or emotional aversion. Now in this chapter, this will help you understand how to make the right ethical decisions based on a value system that embraces honor and integrity. It will help you understand how your values are formed, how to clarify which values are important to you, and how to resolve human relations problems that result when your personal values conflict with others' values. Okay, now let's start with the first part of our topic. We have the character, integrity, and moral development. According to A.I. Simpson, if you have character, that's all that matters. And if you don't have character, that's all that matters too. Character as defined is composed of personal standards of behavior, including honesty, integrity, and moral strength. It is the main ingredient that we seek in our leaders and the quality that earns us respect in the workplace. Now, there is that one basic ingredient of character, and that is integrity. As defined, it is the basic ingredient of character that is exhibited when you achieve congruence between what you know, what you say, and what you do. In other words, when your behavior is in tune with your professed standards and values, when you practice what you believe in, you have integrity. When you say one thing but do something else, you lack integrity. Now there is a question that says, how important is it to be viewed as a person with integrity and a strong sense of characters in the eyes of your friends, family members, fellow workers, and leaders? This question can be answered with another question. What factors contribute to warm friendships, strong marriages, successful careers, and successful organizations. When you look closely at the factors that contribute to warm friendships, strong marriages, successful careers, and successful organizations, you quickly come to the conclusion that the character and integrity are critical. It all means that these factors are the critical qualities of character and integrity in which we do not yet possess. You are not born with these qualities. So what can a person do? That is to build a character through keeping commitments. As what Covey says, as we make and keep commitments, even small commitments, we begin to establish an inner integrity that gives us the awareness of self-control and courage and strength to accept more of the responsibility for our own lives. Now there is a question. What will happen if we constantly or consistently fail to keep our commitments? It all means that we cannot expect to maintain our integrity. Now let's proceed to the second part of our discussion, how personal values are formed. Values as defined are the personal beliefs and preferences that influence your behavior. They are deep-seated in your personality. Hiram Smith, author of The 10 Natural Laws of Successful Time and Life Management, says that certain natural laws govern personal productivity and fulfillment. Now, one of these laws focuses on personal beliefs, that your behavior is a reflection of what you truly believe. Now, in the next slide, I have here the 5 steps, okay? The 5 steps that can help you determine whether or not you truly value something, okay? This is a values clarification process. Now, many times you are not consciously aware of what is really driving your behavior because values exist at different levels of awareness. Unless you clarify your values, life events are likely to unfold in a haphazard manner. Once you are aware of your values' priorities, you are in a better position to plan and initiate life-changing activities. Now, the 5-part valuing process are the following. We have thinking, feeling, communicating, choosing, and acting. Let us go first with thinking. We live in a confusing world where making choices about how to live our lives can be difficult. Of major importance is developing critical thinking skills that help distinguish fact from opinion and supported from unsupported arguments. Learn to think for yourself, question what you are told, and engage in higher level thinking that involves analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Second, feeling. This dimension of the valuing process involves being open to your gut level feelings. In other words, if it doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. Examine your distressful feelings such as anger, fear, or emotional hurt. Discover what you prize and cherish in life. The third part is communicating. Communicating, values are clarified through an ongoing process of interaction with others. Be active listener and hear what others are really saying. Be constantly alert to communication filters such as emotions, body language, and positive and negative attitudes. Learn to send clear messages regarding your own beliefs. Now, the communication filters were discussed already by Ma'am Ella May Albero. Okay, so when we say emotions, okay, strong emotions can either prevent people from hearing what a speaker has to say or make them too susceptible to the speaker's point of view. Whereas the body language is composed of either eye contact or those non-verbal messages, facial expressions, the gestures, or the personal space. Okay. Now we also have here choosing. Your values must be freely selected with no outside pressure. In some situations, telling right from wrong is difficult. Therefore, you need to be well informed about alternatives and the consequences of various courses of action. Each choice you make reflects some aspect of your value system. Lastly, acting. Act repeatedly and consistently on your beliefs. One way to test whether something is of value to you is to ask yourself, do I find this value persistent throughout all aspects of my life? That's the question. And to recap, the five-part valuing process are the following: thinking, feeling, communicating, and choosing. And lastly is acting. Now we are already done discussing the five-part valuing process to clarify and develop our values. Now this time, we will be identifying our own core values. Hiram Smith says that everything starts with your core values. Those values that you consistently rank higher than others. When you are able to identify your core values, you have a definite picture of the kind of person you want to be and the kind of life you want to have. As defined, core values are the fundamental beliefs of a person or organization. These guiding principles dictate behavior and can help people understand the difference between right and wrong. Core values also help companies to determine if they are on the right path and fulfilling goals by creating an unwavering guide. Now, we often need to re-examine our core values when searching for a job. Taking a job today is a matter of choosing among four core values. Say, for example, as what you can see in the picture, a certain woman or as a girl is applying for a vacant position in a certain company. And she bring with her, okay, she brings with her her four core values. We have high salary, security, meaningful work, and lots of time off. Needless to say that most jobs would require putting at least one of these core values in the back burner. In other words, at least one of these values should be set aside for now or should not given a priority. Okay? Next, focus on your life's purpose. It is important that we can be able to define our purpose in life. According to Canfield, without purpose and a compass to guide you, your goals and action plans may not ultimately fulfill you. To get from where you are today to where you want to be, you have to know two things. Where are you today and where you want to get to? Once you have identified your core values, defining your purpose in life will be much easier. As you engage in the values clarification process, it helps reflect on those things that have influenced your values, such as people and events of your generation, your family, religious groups, your education, the media, and people you admire. Okay, so we are already in the process of knowing what are those factors that influences or that shapes our values. First, we have the generational influences. Okay, when we say generational influences, it talks about certain generations. No? So we have already five generations. The traditionalists, the baby boomers, the Generation X, the Generation Y or the millennials, and lastly, the Generation Z and the upcoming generation. These are among the most powerful forces shaping our values. Generations follow observable historical patterns and thus offer a powerful tool for predicting future workforce attitude. No? So because each of these generations has certain or has a distinct personality. No? So it will be there will be a pattern, a historical pattern that is observable. Okay, so to give you a specification for that, let us have here this one. Okay, so for a traditionalist, when it comes to work values and expectations, she would say, I am at my workplace for 8 hours. If necessary, I stay late to complete an assignment. So she exhibits loyalty. But Generation Z insists work-life balance. I don't want to think about work after working hours. For a millennial, she is exhibiting the work-life integration that this is a 24/7 world. I work until 5 and will log on tonight. So we will not dig deeper into that, but that is an overview of how generational differences influences or shape our values. Rather, next we have your family. Of course, no? Parents must assume many roles, none more important than moral teacher. In many families in contemporary society, one parent must assume full responsibility for shaping child's values. Some single parents, those overwhelmed with responsibility for career, family, and rebuilding their own personal lives, may lack the stability necessary for the formation of the 6 pillars of character. Especially that you are busy and you are a single parent and you raise your child alone, so there are times that we cannot suffice the moral needs, no, of our children. And in two-parent families, both parents may work outside the home and at the end of the day may lack the time or energy to intentionally direct the development of their child's values. In other words, there will be times that we tend to neglect our personal responsibility for our child in the development of their values, no? So the same may be true for families experiencing financial pressures or the strains associated with caring for elderly parents. Sorry. Next, religious groups. Many people learn their value priorities through religious training. This may be achieved through the accepted teachings of a church, through religious literature such as the Quran and the Bible, or through individuals in churches or synagogues who are positive role models. We also have here education. Okay, it plays an important role in shaping the values of people, education. Now, many parents concerned that their children are not learning enough about moral values and ethical behavior. So what they do, they are wanting of character education added to the curriculum. No? So that is why we have now this values education subject. Okay, so there are some other developed tools and techniques and training programs also that aimed at reducing the likelihood and risks of ethical lapses. No? So these are the things that most of the institutions are doing. No? They are having these training programs, developing some tools, techniques, just to reduce the likelihood and risk of ethical lapses. Next, we have the media. No? So the very influential, no? The media. Viewers too often see people abusing and degrading other people without any significant consequences. Mainstream television, seen by a large number of young viewers, continues to feature a great deal of violence and antisocial behavior. That is why it is very risky if you just leave your child watching TV alone. No, he or she might be seeing something violent. Okay, so that will contribute to the shaping of his or her values. Okay, now lastly is the people that you admire. You have shaped your behavior to resemble that of people you admire and embrace the qualities those people demonstrate. Okay, that is called modeling. Now, most employees look to their leaders for moral guidance. But unfortunately, there is a shortage of leaders who have a positive impact on ethical decision making. No? So, a survey found that less than half of employees in large organizations think their senior leadership is highly ethical. In addition to role models at work, you may be influenced by religious leaders, sports figures, educators, and others whom you admire. Now we also have here avoiding values drift. Let us define values drift. It is the slow erosion of your core values over time. So those tiny changes that can steer you off the course. When you observe lying, abuse, theft, or other forms of misconduct at work, or feel pressure to make ethical compromises, you carefully and intentionally reflect on the values you hold dear and choose the appropriate ethical behavior that maintains your character and integrity. Say, for example, you need to monitor your commitment to your values and make adjustments when necessary to get your life back on track. Okay? Monitor your commitment. Okay? And make adjustment. Take a look at these situations here. Situation number one. A friend offers to take you to the movies. She says she will save a few dollars by buying a senior's tickets online. Neither of you is a senior. So what do you do? Okay, what do you do about that? No? Second situation. The person you are dating often picks you up in his mother's car, which is a handicap license plate or has a handicap license plate. Now, he usually parks in spaces reserved for handicapped drivers. Do you say anything? Okay? So, values drift there, of course, or the erosion of your core values can begin with the decisions that may seem insignificant. Now, in these two situations, if you are casting an insignificant decision, that will start the erosion of your core values, no? So you need, as much as possible, avoid values drift. Okay? We have here values conflicts. So what are these values conflicts? One of the major causes of conflicts within an organization is the clash between the personal values of different people, no? The late Peter Drucker said that organizations are no longer built on force but on trust. The existence of trust between people do not mean that they like one another. Okay? So it doesn't mean that he or she like you. That means that he is already building a trust on you. It means that they understand one another. Taking responsibility for relationships is therefore an absolute necessity and it is a duty. Now, there are two types of values conflicts that exists. No? First part is the internal values conflicts. A person who is forced to choose between two or more strongly held values is experiencing an internal values conflicts. How you resolve internal values conflicts depends on your willingness to rank your core values in the order of their importance to you. No? So in other words, you need to re-rank or recalibrate your core values in the order of their importance. Prioritizing your values will help you make decisions when your life gets complicated and you have to make difficult choices. If one of your core values or your values is to be an outstanding parent and another is to maintain a healthy body, you should anticipate an internal values conflict when a busy schedule requires a choice between attending your daughter's soccer game and your weekly workout at the fitness center. However, when you rank which value is most important, the decision will be much easier. Now, for internal values conflicts, the only thing that you will need to remember is that you have to recalibrate and re-rank and prioritize what is more important. In that way, it will be easier for you to make decisions. The second one is the values conflicts with others. Okay, so employees from each generation bring with them different experiences and expectations, of course, no? Values conflicts are more likely in this environment. These conflicts require effective human relation skills. So, on this part, it should have it requires the effective human relation skills. Since we are already done or talked a lot about values, now let us go with ethics. Okay, this is the fourth part of our discussion: personal values and ethical choices. Ethics as defined refers to the principles that define behavior as right, good, and proper. Your ethics or the code of ethics of your organization does not always dictate a single moral course of action, but it does provide a means of evaluating and deciding among several options. Ethics determines where you draw the line between right and wrong. No? If you can see on the symbol, it is a symbol of a person who is balancing between right and wrong. No? Survey shows that many workers feel pressure to violate their ethical standards in order to meet business objectives. Thus, you must develop your own personal code of ethics. Okay? Every job you hold will present you with new ethical and moral dilemmas. And many of these or the ethical issues you encounter will be very difficult. Say, for example, no, you apply for a certain job to another, you apply for a job in another company after you resign in your previous company. Of course, you cannot expect that the code of ethics is still the same. No, they have different code of ethics there. So, of what we'll do, you will adjust again, no? Develop your own personal code of ethics, okay? Next, how to make the right ethical choices. Okay, so how are we going to do this? Number one, learn to distinguish between right and wrong. For example, just because you have the power to do something does not mean it is the proper thing to do. Just because you have the right to do something does not mean it is right to do. Just because you want to do something does not mean you should do it. And lastly, choose to do more than the law requires and less than the law allows. Next, don't let your life be driven by the desire for immediate gratification. Progress and prosperity have almost identical meanings to many people. They equate progress with the acquisition of material things. Say, for instance, you've been promoted as the manager or, after a few months of being an employee. And you felt like, oh, I am already a manager, so I need to buy a car, no? An expensive car, a large house. One explanation is that young business leaders entering the corporate world are under a great deal of pressure to show the trappings of success, no? So equating Okay, equating progress with the acquisition of material things are examples of the trappings of success, no? Or for the on the part of the employees, some people get trapped in a vicious cycle, like they work more that they can buy more consumer goods. Then as they buy more, they must work more, no? I need to work hard because I am aiming of completing this set of books that I have in my room, no? Something like that. That is an example of an immediate gratification. Now, if we are to define immediate gratification or the instant gratification, distracts us from meaningful pursuits and leads us to destructive financial, social, and health outcomes, no? So that is the problem. Buy and buy, because you have work. Okay, you buy this one, I want to buy that one, I need to work hard, buy that one. Okay, we have number 3. Make certain that your values are in harmony with those of your employers. Okay, let's us have this one, no? Very important. Harmony between personal and organizational values usually leads to success for the individual as well as the organization. Enlightened companies realize that committed employees give them their competitive edge and are taking values seriously. Before you select an organization in which to build your character, determine what the organization stands for, and then compare those values to your own priorities. No? So I have experienced this one when I was applying for a certain company in Cebu. Now, I am applying, before I have that interview, I am already researching the background of the company and focusing on their vision, mission, and goals, because someone told me that when you have the interview or when you are already on the interview process, make sure that you already know the mission, vision, and goals of that certain company, because they will be asking like, what do you know about the company? And most of the applicants there are answering, as far as I have researched, this company is offering good salary. Mm. So what will be the impression of the interviewer to you? No? Rather than saying that, oh, I have known this company as good in or as having rendering excellent service when it comes to health services, no? So they are catering services that are beyond their capacity. So if you answer like that, then the interviewer will be amazed, because you know how to rank which values is more important. Okay, diba? We are already discussing about prioritize which values are more important, or which core values that are more important. Okay, so that is just an example, no? When organizations consistently make ethical decisions that are the best interest of their stakeholders, now you are part of the stakeholders, employees, customers, stockholders, and the community. They are considered good corporate citizens because they are socially responsible. No? So that is why you as an employee, even before the start of an interview, you are already exhibiting um, interest in the ethical decisions, okay? Then you are considered as a good citizen. So what will be the result for this one? Of course, many will invest in that certain company, no? So there is a reciprocation here, because organizations also are trying their best to, as much as possible, make ethical decisions. And you as an employee also, as much as possible, you need to adjust your core values so that it will match on the values that the company is exhibiting. Okay? There is harmony. All right. Now, we have here an example of a code of conduct, no, from CMR Institute. I will not read everything, but we'll have this line. I will promote the health and well-being of patients as my first priority. Now, if these people will graduate from this institute, now some companies who will read the code of conduct will expect that the product of this institute are very good, no? So because as you read the code of conduct, I will not employ an inducement or misleading statements to gain access to a healthcare professional. Very promising code of conduct. Okay, so much for that. Let us now proceed to corporate crime. So we are already in the 35 minutes, no, and we are only given 30 minutes. Okay, so I am almost done. Let's just finish this one. Okay, corporate crime. Many organizations have gotten into serious trouble by ignoring ethical principles. In recent years, the media have carried headlines concerning organizations involved in corporate crime. Now, what are the examples of this corporate crime? Before we do that, let us define first what is a corporate crime. It is called an organizational crime, a type of white-collar crime committed by individuals with their legitimate occupations for the benefit of their employing organization, such as individuals generally think or do not think. Such individuals generally do not think of themselves as criminals, nor do they consider their activities criminal. Let me give you an example for this, okay? We have falsifying information on financial statements. Now, in order for a certain company to look as if it is progressing instead of the status of their financial statement is at loss, no? So they will falsify the information, no? They will try to look as if it is progressing, no? So that many investors will still or so that there will be a investor still in that certain company, no? Because that manager maybe is trying to revive the company from being bankrupt, no? So I do not have much knowledge about accounting, but that is something like that, no? We have manipulating the stock market, bribery of public officials, false claim in advertising, embezzlement, and damage caused to the environment due to negligence. Since we are already talking about corporate crime, let us have the prevention of corporate crime. How to prevent corporate crime? First, establish and support strong code of ethics. Code of ethics, as defined, are written statements of what an organization expects in the way of ethical behavior and can give employees a clear indication of what behaviors are acceptable or improper. An ethics code can be a powerful force in building culture of honesty, but only if it is enforced without exception. Second, hire with care. That is why when you apply for a company, you will be undergoing a lot of interviews. No? That is a manifestation of a company hiring with care. The key to operating a successful company is to first identify a guiding set of values and then make sure you find people who have those values and can work together. He says hiring process should be given a very high priority. Never hire any employee without checking references and conducting a lengthy job interview. No? Checking the references, no? And conducting a lengthy job interview. Third, provide ethics training. Training involves little more than a careful study of the company ethics code and its implications for day-to-day decision making. In other cases, employees participate in in-depth discussions of complex ethical decisions, no? So that there will be a development. Okay, so we need to have ethics training. Fourth, develop support for whistleblowing. Okay, when you discover that your employer or a colleague is behaving illegally or unethically, you have three choices. You can keep quiet and keep working. You can decide you can't be a party to the situation and leave, or you can report the situation in the hope of putting a stop to it. That is your thinking, no? That you can stop to it. When you reveal wrongdoing within an organization to the public or to those in positions of authority, you are a whistleblower. Okay? Whistleblower na. Disclosing wrongdoing can be a daunting experience. Your fellow colleagues may resent the disruption your revelations cause in their lives. Okay? They may be impressed with your integrity, but not everyone will be on your side in your struggle to do what is right and ethical. No, not everyone will always be on your side. Your efforts may result in months or even years of emotional and financial turmoil. No? So it can cause an emotional and financial turmoil towards the subject, no? Towards your subject. Each individual must make his or her decisions as to whether the disturbing unethical offense is worth the personal cost. In other words, whistleblowers should ask themselves before taking action. Like for example, is this the only way? Do I have the goods? Why am I doing this? No, you as a whistleblower, you ask that. Am I ready? Because after you did those things, no, disclosing someone's wrongdoings, am I ready? Okay, think through the impact on your family. Be prepared for unemployment and the possibility of being blacklisted in your profession. No? Last but not the least, you consult a lawyer. So that is a whistleblower checklist. Okay. Values and ethics in international businesses. So this is the last part, all right? If the situation is complex in the domestic scene, values and ethical issues become more complicated at the international level. No, of course, this is already international level of business, no? Or an international business, how much more for this? Monitoring illegal activities throughout the world is a difficult task. No, we can say it is already hard monitoring illegal activities on the domestic level. How much more for this? No? It's already international. Doing business in the global marketplace continues to be an ethical minefield with illegal demands for bribes, kickbacks, or special fees standing in the way of successful transactions. Although it is understood by many in the global business community that violations do occur, the question is often one of degree. Paul Jensen suggests that every internal manager must find what he's personally comfortable with. All right. The comfortability of the manager, no? That's a combination of the company standards and his personal standards. So going back to the harmony of the values, no? Harmonizing the values. All right. So that ends the discussion, or my entire discussion, about how personal values influence ethical choices. Okay, for the summary of the discussion, as much as I would like to read everything, but since we are already running out of time, it can be found on page 13. The objectives there are explained. And then for the focused questions, it has been answered in page 14. So I have here the references for all the sources that I have gathered. Okay, so that ends chapter 5, personal values influence ethical choices. Thank you everyone for listening, and once again, this is Louis Johnson Bastasa, and thank you and goodbye.